Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are we doing today, Gwen? I heard you made it through the airport okay. Your trip went decent.
It did. I got lucky. I had traveled to my friend at Myrtle Beach and flew out from there, and I got a nonstop to Chicago, which with one wing, as everybody knows, I'm still in a sling. But I made it, and I will be at Broadhead this weekend for the brawl, and it's gonna
I
be
can't,
cool.
I can't, I can't wait for that. I'm so excited to
Me
get
too.
getting to see everybody again. Louie is awesome.
Yes.
Of course, Bill.
Yes.
I mean, I could do without seeing you, but
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness. That's okay. I'll
but
hang out with Morgan. You'll just be jealous.
I don't. I'm gonna get jealous of that. It gives me opportunity to free roam. But uh, but no, it's gonna be an absolutely great event. I most likely will have some books for sale. I'm gonna be donating one to do in the raffle.
Nice.
But it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a great time.
Yes.
I will tell you though, I'm still iffy on whether or not I'm deciding to wear deodorant.
I would also just appreciate it, and I think Morgan, you may agree with me that it would be nice if you would wear deodorant. We would have more people socialize with you.
I mean,
Just
have you not
saying.
met me? I'm a very antisocial person. But
Yeah,
uh,
but you know.
but yeah, so for those of you out there who don't know, this coming weekend, 5th and 6th,
Yes.
Broadhead Beard Brawl at Broadhead Manor in Broadhead, Wisconsin. It's going to be an event that you are not going to want to miss. It's for charity. It's going to be amazing. I
There
do
you go.
believe Vince Killian's going to be there. I
Hmm.
know that everything vaguely paranormal is going to be there. Gwen's going to be there.
Yep.
Robbie Resnick's going to be there. I will be there. Jay Hill is going to make an appearance. It's going to be amazing.
Christina Bloom's coming.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, why do I
Yep.
always forget about Christina?
Because you know what? Because she's just one of the pack, and we just know. Sean, who helps us out, who's actually in the back now, he's
Yep,
coming.
yep,
Um,
yep.
somebody else is coming, but and then we have all kind of the usual suspects. But you guys, is for charity. We're going to be going live, doing different stuff. Nate's going to do some crazy stuff. We're going to just be live and talking to people. And if you can donate anything, do it. It's a good cause.
Yeah,
So
I'm still not sure about the whole request that I got last podcast when I had Bill on, and the lady was asking me if I would shave my beard and donate my or pay for, like, she was bidding to buy my beard hair. That's
yeah,
a
but you know what? If it raises money for, that's okay.
I'll do it. I mean, you know what though? That could be some bad witchcraft juju stuff there. I don't know,
Well,
but there is that I got to take into account. But let me tell you, tonight, guys, Wicked Wednesday, welcome back to another episode of the Paranormal Unveiled. If you missed it this morning, be sure to go and check out the Paramystic podcast with Christina
yes.
Bloom. I do believe her guest was Jeremy Bottas.
Yes, he is actually like more like her co-host. He actually lives in England,
Oh, okay.
and they co-host about once a month. So it's a uh, just a normal thing. Plus, now first time this week, Shane McClain
Yes,
came with us.
and I was just about to bring that up. If you missed the show directly before mine, Bridging the Seen and Unseen with Shane McClain. His guest,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken, was Long Island Paranormal Investigators.
Right.
And then, of course, stay tuned after my show for Twisted Tales with Jeremy Cotter with his guest Christy Parrish.
Hmm.
So we got an excellent 4 block going here. It's going to be awesome. But without further ado, I don't want to keep my guests in the background too long because I know I find that crap aggravating when people do it to me. So tonight we have on the creator and lead investigator of Chasing Legends, which is a
Yes.
documentary series that is based upon them traveling around and looking into cryptids and local legends and folklore. I've known Nash for quite some time. I think this is going to be an amazing conversation. So without further ado, let's welcome to the Paranormal Unveiled family, my friend Nash Hoover.
Hey,
Hey,
thanks for having
Nash.
me.
Hey.
Yes, man. I am so happy that you were able to work this out. How's the kid doing, brother?
He's good. Yeah,
Awesome.
he's huge and loud and
That's how
Aren't all
kids
kids?
are.
yep.
You know, and as a father of 3, trust me, I understand how it can be. So I get it 100%. So I want to start off the podcast, Nash, by asking you what I feel is the typical go-to first question. Okay. What got you started as far as wanting to look into local legends, folklores, and cryptids? Like, what gained your interest to go in that direction?
um, it started when I was a kid. I don't remember kind of the initial kind of event, but I believe I was in my elementary school library. This would have been, I think, 02, 03-ish. And came across a book about Bigfoot and thought it was interesting. I was very interested in wildlife and was watching a lot of the nature shows, the Steve Irwins and the Jeff Corwin type shows that were popular at the time. So, to kind of come across something that was, discussing a, undiscovered primate-esque species that was, said to be living here in North America was interesting to me. And so I just kind of started looking into the subject, and then from there it kind of snowballed into I got really big into Loch Ness, started getting into UFOs, and then I was checking out the books so frequently that my elementary school librarian just found all the books and just set them aside for me because I was the only one even curious enough to look for these.
Nice.
And she even went the extra mile and actually brought in some new books on some of the topics for me.
That's so cool.
It is.
And around that time, the internet was still kind of a newish thing, at least on like the the normal people side of things. So there wasn't as much online as there is obviously now. So, but it was kind of slowly getting there. So most of my, the start was researching, through book and, and then, as time went on, it wasn't, a few years after that is kind of when some of these other shows kind of started popping up, Monster Quest and Destination Truth and all of that kind of started coming into play. So it kind of broadened my horizon to realize, oh, Bigfoot isn't just a singular thing. It's global. Oh, there's other things around the world that are kind of reported and disputed and such. And so that really kind of helped take it to the next level for me. And then, I was mid 2013, sitting around just kind of joking with a friend of mine, like, hey, we should do a show and look for cryptids. And we did.
Lo and behold, you have it.
Yeah, you do. And I like it. Yeah.
but I do love that backstory. I like to call them the paranormal villain origin stories is what I call them. Because we all have one. And, I can remember that my first time ever hearing about a cryptid, same, but I was in middle school when I checked out my first book. And the second book I ever checked out, which got me into ghosts, was a book called In Search of Ghosts by Hans Halser. And that's what got me kind of snowballing into that. So I kind of understand where you're coming from when you come across the book and you're like, oh, now you're hooked on it and you want to know more. So I absolutely, I love that. And so this one might be kind of an off the wall question, but it's more of I'm just curious question. We know there's a lot of legends in the Congolese area, the Congo, right? You got Jabo Fafi, you've got the Macaulay Mbembe and stuff like that. Like, do you think that creatures that large could exist in that ecosystem for that long without ever being discovered?
Well, you have to consider the part of the world you're talking about. You're talking about the Congo River Basin. You're talking about the Congolese rainforest, one of the least explored jungles on the planet, aside from most of Papua New Guinea, and then obviously the rainforest. So you kind of have to look at it in that aspect of, yes, there's very likely large megafauna still yet to be discovered there, but is it dinosaur, sauropod, remnant, from that era? I don't know. The other interesting thing too is you look at all of the major tropical forests in the world have a large snake species except for the Congo, but then you have these reports and these photos of very large snakes in the Congo, in the region of the Congo. Obviously the most famous one that I really love to discuss and kind of dissect is the one from, I believe it was the 60s, with the Dutch helicopter pilot who photographed the one from the air, and it's been, as far as I can tell, the photo's been verified and it's not been doctored and it's a genuine photo, and based on size, based on certain objects that they can make out in the photo, they estimate that this, if it was a real snake, well, it would have been like 40 to 50 feet long.
So not something I would want to try and wrestle.
No.
And I've seen that picture. It is amazing.
Yeah.
If it's real, it's amazing. Yeah.
But back to kind of what you're talking about with the Mokele-Mbembe and such. I did a talk. I do the Van Meter Visitor Festival in Van Meter, Iowa every year. And
nice.
The last time I did a presentation there, I spoke specifically on the topic of Lazarus taxon, which is essentially megafauna or just fauna in general. It shows up in the fossil record. We think it's extinct, and then we find it as it was in the fossil record, but still alive.
So similar to coelacanth.
So yeah, coelacanth is one of the biggest examples of that, and there's a few others. But so I did a whole speech on that and kind of just breaking down, like, could modern cryptid sightings be remnant populations of something that we didn't, that we thought was long extinct?
Right.
Which is why people are kind of describing something strange. They're not sure what they're looking at. It's something they've never seen before because it's not something that should be there. Rather than it being some just, freak of nature animal that has just evaded science. So, in that presentation, I had a lengthy discussion about the Mokele-Mbembe, and I kind of attribute it to a known subspecies of black rhinoceros that did live in the Congo River Basin that has since been extinct, but would fit the bill of a small, dark, sauropod-esque looking thing if you're just seeing it in a flash, and any sane person sees a rhino, they're going to turn the other way. So if you're in the jungle and you see some large creature, you're gonna, you're not gonna really stop and really kind of take a look. So,
right.
I'm not saying obviously that's 100% what it could be, but it's definitely a possibility, and it's definitely something that needs to kind of be considered with a lot of cryptid sightings around the world. Is okay, let's see what we know. Let's take a look at what we know did exist in that area. Does it fit descriptions? Yes. Okay. Is it still something that's being seen, or is it in some cases, which is why I really enjoy researching international cryptids, is it something cultural? Is it something that's been passed down for generations that started with the people that were alive when these animals did exist, and they're just passing stories down? So that's kind of, you've got kind of a two-sided thing here, where is it something flesh and blood, or is it just strictly folkloric and it's just been passed down and used almost as like the boogeyman type story, like, hey, don't go in the jungle by yourself because you're gonna
Sure.
That sort of thing, which you do find a lot around the world.
Yes.
Especially with some of the more outlandish cryptids that I've come across, where you read about it and like, there's no way in hell the thing actually exists, but it's being used in this way as almost kind of like a cautionary. And then it just kind of blew up.
Yeah.
And became something physical without actually being something physical.
Right. So folklore basically took on a mind of its own based off of cautionary tales.
In some cases, in a lot of cases, yes.
See, like, I feel like I know the description of the hodag. There's no way that thing exists.
No, and that is a proven hoax. I mean, it's never been full. I mean, yeah, it's 100% hoax. Like, but the town, like, I've been to Rhinelander. They embrace the hell out of it. They got big statues. Like, the locals, the high school sports team embraces it. I know Ben, the guy that owns the hodag store, and he's really taken and ran with it. And he's had great success with everything there. So, but that's kind of one of those cases where you kind of have something like that. The town, the local community have kind of taken hold on it and have kind of kept it alive in their own way, but they're not like trying to, I guess, they're capitalizing off of it, but they're not doing it with poor intent. Like, they're not like out there hoaxing sightings and stuff like that. They're just making it a mascot, and that's great.
Right. Right.
Because it
Similar to
keeps,
what
you know,
they-
it keeps some of these stories alive.
right. Similar to
Um,
like what they do with Lake Champlain and Champy,
Yeah. Yeah.
which you've been to Lake Champlain, have you not?
I have, and that was kind of one thing that we were. I guess I mean, it was just yeah. I was surprised that there wasn't more. Um, I was yeah, I would say I was kind of shocked and happy at the same time because they didn't, they weren't obviously overdoing it, but I guess I expected a little more. But um, everybody that we talked to, whether it was just somebody at a gas station, somebody at a restaurant, whatever, either they themselves had a sighting or they knew somebody personally that has had a sighting. Everyone we talked to, the entire 6 days we were there.
Interesting.
So, and that became that I had, I had my opinions on Champ going into that, and everything completely changed.
Interesting.
Which, actually physically being boots on the ground in location should change your perspective.
It should.
Of kind of whatever you're looking at. But yeah, that one for sure, for me, I completely went from there's no way to, okay, yeah, there could be something here.
And not just that, but Lake Champlain is a lot bigger than people realize.
Yeah,
It is massive.
Yeah, I remember the first time I literally I still can like relive that moment in my head the first time I saw it, like physically standing on the shore of it and like, holy shit. Like you expected something, I knew it was big, but I didn't expect like looking across it and not being able to see the other side big. Like,
right. And not just that, but it's also got areas deep enough that there very well could be something unknown in that lake.
480 is the deepest that they know of. And that was what we kept being told, was that's what we know is the deepest point.
Right.
But then you have to take into account the literal mountain range in the middle of the lake.
Yes.
That we could have, if the water had been 6 inches shallower, we could have stood on in the middle of the lake.
Oh, wow.
That's insane.
Because we could see the top of it. And, we spent time with a local diver who's dived the lake hundreds of times, does ROV stuff in the lake all the time. And he's like, I would not be surprised if there was huge cave systems, all this stuff. And that's kind of one thing that the late Scott Martis was really on about was, that was kind of one thing that he started researching, was looking into these kind of because we do know, because there was, I forget the name of the island, but there was an island that we did go on that you could tell at one point was underwater. And so that was kind of one thing that Scott Martis was kind of starting to kind of question was, should we be digging in some of these cave systems and looking for bones to see if, but, obviously that's kind of leaning more towards the plesiosaur side of, this, which I'm not sure if I really put a stake in that camp. But even like the diver that we spent time with, like, he's like, I grew up here. I've seen everything that's supposed to be in this lake. And he's like, when I saw it, I knew, like, that's, he's like, cause he has had a sighting that he talked about in the episode. And he's like, that changed my life. He's like, I have seen everything, he's like, I've seen everything above and I've seen everything below. And that was not something that I've ever seen before.
That's interesting, because
it was just literally like he described it as like an upside down boat just sinking.
And this is why especially credible eyewitness reports are very important, because you got a guy here who's been diving on the lake for multiple years. He probably knows that lake inside and out. So if someone pops up and says, oh, well, it's probably a sturgeon, he's going to know whether or not there is said fish in that lake that gets that big.
And I'm pretty sure he told us that we were the first people that he's ever like publicly, like, he's never been on camera before to tell that story.
Oh,
and
really?
he told it to us.
Well, that's awesome.
So it's.
Did you have your own experience while you were there? Just curious.
I'm trying to remember.
I
think we thought we saw something. I mean, the lake is massive and we had very little time. we went during COVID, so like all of the boat rental places were shut down. So we pretty much were only able to get on the lake a couple hours with the diver.
Right.
And then when we did our investigation, we ended up having to use kayaks because that was all we had. And that was
See, I remember
totally
that about
terrifying.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
So we hardly even scratched the surface of that, no pun intended, of that lake.
Yeah. Would you go back?
Yeah, there's I'd say out of the 4 that we did, the most recent ones, I would do a follow-up to Champ. I would do several follow-ups to Champ.
Right. You
and
would have to. That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would do another Mohican expedition just because that's another one that we barely scratched the surface on that.
And that's over at the Moleon Rim, correct?
Yep, in Arizona.
So there's a version correct me if I'm wrong, Nash, that's a type of Bigfoot, correct?
Yep.
So
What's
they
it
call it the
called?
Moleon Monster.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they call it the Mogollon Monster. That's just their regional, that's just the regional name for their Bigfoot.
I was over in Essex Junction, Vermont last month for the Vermont Sci-Fi Fantasy and Horror Expo. I wasn't that far from Lake Champlain. And unfortunately, I did not get a chance to go. Look, I'm not going to lie. Would I like my own Champ sighting? I absolutely would. But I really wanted a Champ t-shirt for my collection. So let me ask you.
Him and his t-shirts.
Look, I love my t-shirt collection.
I do too. I love them.
So off the topic of that, just for fun, Nash, when you go to these places that are supposedly very popular, like they have their local lords of cryptids, if they offer a t-shirt of said cryptid, do you get one?
I get something. Yeah. I got I didn't get a t-shirt. I got a coffee mug. I got one other thing. Stickers is my thing.
Love them too. Yes.
But yes, I did get a coffee mug. It broke on the way home and I have never fixed it. So it's been like 6 years of the handle being shattered and sitting inside of the mug on like display. But
that's right.
Well, that's part of the story.
Yeah. I never intended to use it. It was always going to be just a display. So
it's a cute part of the story.
No, it is. And that sucks, though, because I do hate, if there's one thing I hate, because I drink a lot of coffee, it's a broken coffee mug.
Yeah, well, good thing I've got like 20 other mugs that I could use. So
That's fair. So as you heard us talking earlier, I don't know how much you will listen, but we're going out to Wisconsin this weekend. Let me ask you, what are your thoughts on the Beast of Bray Road?
That's the question that just popped up.
Oh, buddy.
Because I know that, you intensely, I believe it was Lauren Coleman you talked with, correct?
I talked to Lauren years ago.
Yeah, I know it was many years ago, but what do you think? Do you think there's actually a beast on this road? Do you think that maybe it's a misidentification?
Yes. Have you been to Bray Road?
I have not yet.
Okay. So everybody that I've ever met that puts a lot of belief in Bray Road has never been there.
Right.
Because it's just a road in the middle of nowhere with very little vegetation, very little forest, very little tree cover. And what there is around the few houses that are on the road. So there's nowhere for anything to live.
Interesting.
So no, I don't think. I think if anything was seen, it was a one-off thing and it was just passing through.
Okay.
I don't think that anything, and yeah.
I kind of had the same outlook myself because I've not personally been to Bray Road, but I have looked at Google Maps photos of the area. And for me, I didn't see enough landscape.
Yeah, you've seen it all.
Yeah, there's not enough landscape for anything of a substantial size, especially of that nature, to really live.
No. And we, the last time we went, we flew a drone and did like a 360, and it was like a good ways away. It was like the nearest, like considerably dense forest, but even that wasn't that big.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was one of those ones where the town kind of embraced it and rolled with it, and then in the 90s, they made a horror movie about it, and then this town stopped embracing it.
I have seen that horror movie. And
yeah,
it was
it's bad.
horrible.
It's bad.
It was bad.
And I think that's partially why they kind of stopped, because when we walked around Elkhorn, which is the town that Bray Road is the closest to, nobody seemed to want to talk about it.
Interesting.
We had countless people were more than happy to talk to us about Bigfoot, but nobody wanted to talk about Beast of Bray Road. So that to me was like, okay, this is either overglorified, which yes. And it seems the Dogman trend for whatever reason has just exploded. And
exact term. Yep.
It frustrates me. People like believe what you want to believe, but do not try to convince me that it is some animal, because it can't. No.
So let me ask you, have you seen those people online that like are member of Dogman groups that post those blurry photos?
Yeah.
And they circle it and they zoom in and it's literally just tree bark. I've
been to Lee Hempel. I know him. He's got some weird Lee Hempel's ranch is a completely different ball game. Okay. Whomever left that comment. I don't even put Lee Hempel's ranch in the same grain as Bray Road, because he actually had stuff that's weird stuff that is happening. He does live near Bray Road. So but yeah, that's his stuff is a completely different entity altogether.
Interesting.
So I was at the Kansas City Paracon. This was 2019 maybe. So last year I think that they had it. And yeah, I literally had a guy from Florida that would not leave me alone. Just showing me photo after photo. Do you see it there? Like, the circling. I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah, cool. Interesting. Well, you got to come down sometime, check it out. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's like zoom. Like, if you have to zoom in to like the max, like to where you can literally see like each pixel, like is as big as the picture, without, and have to circle something, there's nothing there.
I agree 100%. I've always been a firm believer, if you have to circle it, most likely you're not seeing what you think you're seeing, because the paranormal or even cryptids will just stand out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, the red circle arrow people, it's in both the ghost hunting and the cryptid side of things. It was originally just a ghost hunting thing, and then it somehow migrated over the cryptids, and now everyone's mad.
So I'm not going to lie to you. There was a few years back I would do that purposely just to troll folks, but I've gotten over that. I've matured. I've grown up, but
some,
not much, but some. But I realize how frustrating it is, especially doing what you do. Because you're into the not necessarily ghost aspect of it. You're into that cryptid aspect. So let me ask you this: in your travels, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys went and investigated the legend of the Loop Guru or Rougarou, whatever you would like to call it. Mm-hmm. What was it like being in that area?
Holy shit! Yeah, that was probably that was for sure the most like dangerous expedition we'd ever done. But like, man, being out in that just swamp in the middle of the night, no one else, was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
That is cool, because you actually answered my next, I think one of my next questions, so I can skip that one when we go forward. Because I was going to ask you, was there ever an investigation? Being in what you just said, I assume this might be it, but I could be just assuming, which I should not do. So, have you ever found yourself in a spot during the filming of this docu-series that you were in an area that just made you so physically uncomfortable, but it's not because of the creatures that was supposedly looming there, but the natural wildlife and or the locals? We've all met some crazy folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. Being in the Mogollon Rim definitely gave me some unease, but it was a completely different, that was more of just like being totally secluded, no cell phone service, like in the mountains.
Ooh, I don't know if I like that.
It was great. It was
great, he says.
But that was just kind of like a different feeling. Like, we didn't have like, we knew there was wolves because we'd saw them. We basically everybody that we talked to that spent a lot of time up there, we would ask the bear question. They're like, you're fine. So there really wasn't like a wildlife fear when we were there, but it was just kind of, I don't know. It was just, I guess I wasn't afraid for my safety. It was just an odd feeling.
Got you. Do you think that has anything to do with the isolation of the rim itself?
Probably. And then we also found out that where we were wasn't far from where the Travis Walton incident happened.
Oh.
But so back to I'll leave you that little morsel. So back, so Louisiana down in the swamps, that was definitely the one where like everyone was on edge because we had venomous snakes, we had alligators that we did have encounters with, and we had spiders the size of our hands making webs at face level.
You will never become a ninja quicker than when you run into a web down south.
No. Thankfully and then the weather too was insane, which kind of worked in our favor with the spiders because downpoured rained the day before our investigation. So all the spiders were remaking their webs, and thankfully they were all here. So we were just kind of ducking underneath.
Exactly.
But that was, and yeah, they were literally, but I think we did look it up, and there was not a venomous spider. We would have been fine.
Right.
But still, I mean, you see, you're like, this is like a spider that should be in Australia.
Yeah, in that area, you get a lot of like orb weavers and wolf spiders and stuff like that. They're not. Yeah,
I forget. Really was it like a banana spider?
Yeah, they're big, black and yellow.
Yeah. That's what it was.
And they're freaky.
They're beautiful, beautiful spiders. But yeah, so I mean, it worked in our favor because we at least saw them.
Right.
So we knew, okay, you do your thing, I'm doing mine, kind of thing.
I agree with you 100%. They are beautiful spiders, but that does not mean I want one crawling on me.
No.
But yeah, that was one where there was definitely that just kind of unease of one wrong step in your, and of course we were on kind of a walkway that just kind of cut through the swamp, and it was like 3 feet wide, no railings, water on both sides.
Right. And you guys also, in Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken, you guys also had the possibility of walking into quicksand in the bogs.
Yes, which thankfully we didn't really veer off the trail unless we knew we were okay.
Okay, good deal.
But I remember at one point just walking and I looked down for whatever reason and just saw the tail of an alligator kind of just disappear into the darkness. I was like, son of a bitch. Why do I put myself in these situations? But there was a moment when we were doing, because we met up with a local boat captain. He does like Billy Gaston is his name, and he has a tour company.
It's like the fan boats.
No, it was I don't know if he has a fan boat, but it was a boat. It was a big. It was like a 20-person, it was like it was canopied and everything.
Oh, okay.
It was a tourist boat, but he was nice enough. One of the Alex Pedikov, who was on our team at the time, had worked with him at a previous project that he was shot there, so he knew him. So he was nice enough to take us, just the 7 of us out, and just give us a private personal tour. And there was a moment where everyone was kind of flying, because we had three people with drones, and they were all flying up at the same time. Well, to fly them, everyone had to turn off the obstacle avoidance on the drones, which obviously alerts you if you get too close, and then it automatically pushes it away. Since the canopy, they had to turn them all off so that way they could get up and fly out, and then everyone turned it back on. Well, Alex didn't. And so he was flying around, clipped a tree, and it fell. So we can see where it was. It somehow, in the middle of the swamp, landed on a dry patch of ground.
That's just sheer luck.
Mm-hmm.
So Billy got the boat as tight as he could to where it was. We could see it. So then I seemed to be the only person that was like, I'll go get it. So Billy's like, here's a 2x4, stick it out there, get out as far as you can. I'm like, cool, like this is like the sketchiest shit ever. But so I climb out, limbering over some branches, get it. And there was a moment where I picked the drone up, didn't even cross my head like I'm probably standing on an alligator nest. Like it didn't even like come through my brain. But there was a moment where I was standing in this place and I'm like, I'm the only person that's ever stood here. And I'm probably the only person that will ever stand here. And it was one of the most like surreal experiences that I've ever had where, you know, we weren't in some far off jungle. We weren't in some crazy unexplored mountain range. We were in Louisiana, the USA. And I was standing somewhere that probably no one has ever stood at before. I would love to.
Oh, I would go with you.
So yeah, so that, but then when we did the the night investigation, it was just like, it was kind of cool because it was like that was my first time seeing like alligators in the wild. I've had encounters with alligators like in captivity, but that was the first time seeing them in the wild. The fucking eye shine, man.
Yes.
Like growing up watching Steve Irwin and me like, that's true. Like
yes.
scanning the light, it's like there they are. Like
you can see it all day long on television, but seeing it in person is a completely different experience. Because you now realize you're seeing those eyes, you are now in danger. You're not sitting in front of a television.
Yeah. So, which I mean, kind of worked in our favor because at least we knew where they were, which is kind of why I think we had the encounter we did is because, we rounded a corner, looked out, saw 3 sets of eyes looking at us. Like, oh, cool. Like just looking at them. And then they started thrashing around and everyone got scared and, that sort of thing. Yeah, it was cool. It was, I mean, that was kind of one of the reasons why we chose to do that one because, I think your original question was, kind of, just the belief and that sort of thing. Because obviously the, Rougarou is it's very rooted in folklore. It's very rooted in the Cajun folklore. It's very rooted in the French, especially, is the, original legend is the loup-garou, which comes from Quebec, which basically is carry over from werewolf legends in France. Yeah, it was just, that one for us was kind of one of the ones where we were like, let's go here mostly because of the environment that we'll be in.
Right.
And we can kind of, obviously we know it's a cool story. So let's just tell it as it is and just go out and explore.
Right.
And just see if we can, because I always approach things with open-minded skepticism. So for me, it was like, let's just put ourselves out in this environment, just see if we have similar encounters. Let's see if we come across something that we can kind of recreate in a sense. Let's see if we come across a known animal that fits the descriptions, which obviously there isn't much. So yeah, that one for us was more of just let's just, it was, we didn't want, because we had 2 episodes of forest. We had an episode of a lake, and it's like, okay, do we do a desert or do we do a swamp? And, we wanted each episode to be unique. Like we didn't want 2 Bigfoot episodes. We didn't want, 2 lake monster episodes. We wanted each episode to kind of be its own kind of section of cryptozoology.
Which you guys did very good with, by the way.
Thank you. So that kind of where, that was kind of one of the major deciding factors there was, it's like, do we go back, do we shoot another episode in Arizona and do something, with like Thunderbird, or do we go to New Mexico and do something with Skinwalker? Or do we kind of tackle that side of things? Or it was like, nah, let's go to New Orleans and, I think because, the COVID works at our advantage in a sense because all of the travel was really cheap because nobody was going anywhere. So I think we kind of cross-referenced a few different places we could have gone, and it was like, let's just like New Orleans was still wide open and acting like nothing was happening, which, as we found out, it kind of worked against them because they had a horrible death rate because of that. But we're like, yeah, let's just go and let's just see what we can do, and we got some, it was fun running around Bourbon Street and filming. And, that was the first time I'd ever been to New Orleans. And now I've been back twice after that.
I still have not been to New Orleans, so
dude,
I
you gotta
envy
go.
you.
I'm going in a little bit.
It's so much fun. And I'm not a drinker. I just go for just the history and the food. I'll walk through Bourbon Street at least once when I'm there, but that's it. I just kind of
I would just be happy to see the Lalaurie Mansion on Bourbon Street. I would be happy with that.
It's cool.
So so let me ask you, Louisiana, like, I've been to a few places in Louisiana, never been to New Orleans. Throughout the process, just as myself doing my paranormal investigating, right? We all do eyewitness interviews. Like, before I take a case, I'm interviewing a witness, and I typically would do it 3 ways. First is over the phone recorded, second is in person, third is at the location in person.
Yep.
So throughout your time of doing this, have you ever come across, and you don't have to name drop anybody, I'm not looking for that, a witness that you thought their story changed so much throughout the duration of telling it that you just found they weren't credible?
Yeah. There's a reason I started vetting interviews, and screening people before. And it was for the Mokion Rim episode. The dudes that we interviewed out in the woods. I had talked to one of them prior a few times on the phone, and everything seemed fine. He kind of said some things that I was like, what? But it wasn't really anything like too crazy.
No major red flag trigger.
Yeah. Like there was, he had kind of made a comment, it's like, I told them you couldn't film there, or that, you couldn't investigate there or whatever. So I'm like, okay, it's like probably like a landowner or something, whatever. No.
The way you said that, no.
Yeah. So we met these guys in the middle, literally, like, there's no address. The dude just texted me coordinates.
Oh.
Which were like, sure, whatever. Like, what could go wrong? And I'm like, there's 7 of us. Like, there's 3 of them. Like, we can, and but no, they were like, I knew that these people existed, but this was the first time that I'd ever sat down with somebody that was so deep in the woo category that I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and it's a total different language.
It all came, it's like we all showed up, everything was okay, and then they started talking, and it was like, we hadn't even started the interviews yet. And it was just like, what? Like, all 3 of them just were like deep, and it was the weirdest stuff. Like, they're not, they're not physical. They're not a physical animal. They're an extra dimensional being that can move through the forest at tremendous speeds. And, they can shift in and out of our plane of existence, and they can zap you, and they can, they're all in this mind speak stuff that they talk to you. They talk to you telepathically, but it's in your own voice. And,
interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the guy had, made a comment that it was like, it was like, yeah, he's like, I reached the point where when I see footprints, I just keep walking like they're nothing to me. And I think they could kind of tell that we didn't buy into it, because the main guy's kind of demeanor kind of shifted a little bit towards the end. But then the weirdest part was when we actually sat down and do the interview, he didn't talk about any of it. He just like, I don't know if he could tell that we just weren't in the same lane as him, but he like completely skirted. The other guy we talked to did kind of get into it, but the main guy, like, he answered every one of my questions directly. He didn't add in any of his stuff. Like, and I'm like, what?
That is strange.
It is.
But yeah, there was just, because there was a moment where after we kind of talked with them before we did the interview, and then he was like, he was kind of taking us around some other areas because this was like one of the research areas, which is why it was like, It's like so when he said I promised them you wouldn't investigate here, he was referring to the Bigfoot.
Oh.
So there was a moment where he kind of took us out and was showing us some stuff, and then he kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna go back to camp. We're like, cool. And we're like, we're a good ways away from him. And as soon as we knew he was like away from us, we all just were like, what the fuck? Like it was almost collectively, like we just were waiting for that moment, and we all just like had just like, huh? And then we were like, there was that, we legit had a conversation with like, do we still do this? Like, we're here. Like, this just seems like the most like, like there was nobody on my team that was just that even like wanted to entertain what these guys were on about.
So branching off of that, so were they like one of those people that were like the firm believers that Bigfoot's an interdimensional being style of thing?
Yeah.
Like it can transport itself, it can fluctuate infrasound to mess with your mind, it can speak with you, like you said, telepathically in your own voice, which I find odd to begin with. But there's so many people out there that have that belief that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being. A lot of people blame the Dyatlov Pass incident on a Yeti that supposedly used infrasound to make these campers cut their tent open from the inside and run out into the freaking freezing Arctic. No, that didn't happen. It was most likely an avalanche.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And even my very, very heavily skeptic DP Sammy was like, what? Like, especially when it came to like the because he made the comment too, he's like they talk to you telepathically using your own voice. Like, dude, that's just your thoughts.
Right.
Like,
that's just you hearing your own thoughts is what that is. So we touched on this a little bit earlier with Champy. I want to ask you, because when you travel across the world, right, there are so many variations of lake monsters. You have the Devil's Lake Serpent, the Nahalito, you have Ogopogo, Champ, Bessie, the Seneca Lake Monster, Cecil, the Silver Lake Monster, Memphre, and the Naga, just to name a few. Like, do you think it's possible, not necessarily in Lake Champlain, but around the world, do you think it's possible that not necessarily a plesiosaur style creature exists, but some kind of maybe a giant eel?
Yeah. I'd buy into that more than a plesiosaur. Just like with Loch Ness, for example, like we know that there's eels there.
Yes.
Same with Lake Champlain. It's coincidentally enough, and I've made these comments before that, I was hot on Loch Ness for years. I still am. It's you can't really not be.
You can't.
But
my girlfriend actually appeased me for Christmas as a surprise gift. She got me a rock from the Lake Loch Ness.
Nice. But what I have found is that, and this isn't just Lake Champlain specifically, but Lake Champlain for sure. All of the famous sightings from Loch Ness are proven hoaxes.
True.
Only a handful of the proven sightings from Champlain have been proven to be a hoax or misidentification. Otherwise, they've been very undisputed, unconfirmed.
And that's a very valid point.
So, I'm not saying there's nothing in Loch Ness, but you have to look at a lot of factors when it comes to lake monsters specifically. The biggest one being, is there enough native fish population that it can eat?
It has to sustain the food source.
Right.
And the same thing with like Bigfoot and other kind of more terrestrial cryptids is you have to have enough of them to support a breeding population.
True.
So that kind of raises your questions. Obviously the most, I think, and a lot of other people do, the most common misidentified or the most common misidentified creature is most likely a sturgeon. Because
Yes.
sturgeon are get massive. And I'm not saying that's Champ and Loch Ness specifically. I'm saying that's a good majority of lake monster sightings, at least, especially in North America.
I would agree with that.
Because I know I did see somebody in the comment talk about the Canadian one, which I'm assuming you're talking about Ogopogo. That's basically the main theory for that one, is that it's a lake or a lake sturgeon. Flathead Lake monster in Montana. That's the leading theory there, is that it's a lake sturgeon. And there's other ones kind of in that Pacific Northwest area. Because I forget how many, but in the Pacific Northwest, I know a lot of them are in Washington, but there is a ton of lakes that are obviously like left over from kind of when the ice caps receded and stuff like that. So they're very deep,
right,
and very kind of, they're skinny and very, very deep, and each one of them has a lake monster. But they also have
every single one.
And and they're all connected. And coincidentally, a lot of the sightings in some of these lakes disappeared once the dams were put in.
Oh,
that's a valid point.
Because they couldn't move. Sturgeon couldn't move between lakes. So that is, I mean, my theory on Champ. I definitely am in the giant turtle camp.
I can see that.
I look at all the evidence. I look at a lot of the sightings, and that's what I see. I don't see a plesiosaur. I don't see an eel. This is something that does have some sort of shell-ish back. And
you know what? You're right, because a lot of turtles, they have those like kind of little spines going across the back of their shell too, especially like alligator snappers down south. So,
and the other thing too is that there are credible Champ sightings on land, and there are credible Champ sightings in very shallow water. There's sightings of people seeing some of the marshland that is near Lake Champlain and seeing evidence of something very large pushing through some of the grass and lily pads where you have things kind of pushed apart and left. Right. So that to me tells me that it's something that can come to the surface. But then at the same time, you're talking about an area that's very heavily traveled by tourists. So it's like, how is this thing evading people so well?
Right.
But I mean, you get that with any cryptid, really. So I don't know, man.
That's fair.
I used to kind of buy into the remnant dinosaur theory. I still kind of do in some cases, because I do definitely believe that there's a very small handful of places on the planet that could still have something.
I would love nothing more than to see on the news one day plesiosaur discovered. Like, that would be amazing.
But
so
then
I have a question, if y'all don't mind, and that kind of gets into that. And I wrote it down, so I'm gonna kind of read my own writing from earlier today when I was flying. If cryptids are real, which I think they are, but that's my opinion, what do you think their evidence of them being real would do for our understanding of the world? Like, would it change our views on a lot of stuff, that things like that are real and can be proven?
Well, I don't feel like you would have the kind of crumbling of society that they always kind of figure would happen if they just fully disclosed aliens and extraterrestrial life and all that stuff. I don't think you would have that. I think it really kind of depends on what specifically. Because I mean, obviously, if something like Bigfoot, it would change. It would definitely change things, but I think it would, it would, and that's kind of the whole point of at least a good majority of us that are in cryptozoology is to, we're trying to investigate this with a scientific mindset, and we're trying to you know, taking a biologist mindset and trying to, you know, because we know that we've unfortunately reached the day and age where photo and video evidence isn't going to cut it.
Right.
Yeah. Especially
You
with
can
deep
have
fake
you can
AI
have
right
the
now.
clearest, you know, because you always see the people. Why is it shaky? Why is it blurry? Yada yada yada. Dude, it doesn't fucking matter. It could be 8K stabilized, clear as day, and people would still say it's fake, even if it's not.
That's true.
True.
So, what makes it more difficult now is everything has to be DNA based, which nobody, at least I shouldn't say nobody, but there's the select few people that are in the cryptid field today that are going out with the intent to find DNA evidence is very, very small.
That's true.
Everyone's going out with their, you know, with the trail cameras and the thermal imagers and the, you know, which is great for most stuff because I'm guilty of it myself. I literally post fucking TV show. But when it comes down, you know, and you can use those things as a, you know, evidence gathering tool, but that can't be the only evidence that you gather. So, you know, and that kind of changed how we approach things several years ago, where now we do go into the field with a proper evidence kit. You know, we are able to collect, you know, we have tweezers and we have gloves and we have, you know, files to put samples in, and we have evidence bags. So everything is sealed away. And, because that's what's going to prove these things exist more than anything now.
I agree.
Right.
10, 15 years ago, you still could put a lot of stake in photo and video evidence because, you know, you could tell what was fake.
Right.
Now you got AI.
Yeah.
And AI is so good. It could very easily fool people if you do it properly.
Yeah.
That's true. That's very true.
So, yeah, I don't think it would. I mean, it would definitely change people's perspectives because then you finally have all of these people that were right all these years.
Yeah.
I think it would be even crazier if it did turn out to be some interdimensional bullshit. And I would, you know, gladly, you know, say, okay, I was wrong. But, yeah, I mean, because I think on a biological standpoint and a scientific standpoint, yeah, which can change things, but it would change things, I think, for the better, because then you would have a lot more protected land, because now you have something that, you
That's
know,
a good point.
It is a good, really
would
great
need to
point.
be protected because there obviously isn't many of them. At the same time, then you kind of run into the, you know, because you always have people that are like, oh, I would just, if I saw a Bigfoot, I would kill it, which it's like,
Yeah.
that's not great, but killing one to save 10,000, you know, if that's your proof, if that can be your proof that proves 100%, oh yeah, these things are real, now we can protect them. You know,
I get that 100%.
Let that be your martyr.
Holy shit, has it been an hour already?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Wow. Goes fast.
So Nash, I'm not trying to cut you off, brother, but I do have another show coming up after mine. I typically end my podcast with 3 specific questions, but since you are not a ghost hunter, I am going to modify said questions to fit.
Hey, I dabble.
You do dabble. We'll have to have another conversation about that another time. So
you'll have to come back.
If you could travel with the Chasing Legends team to investigate any legend or cryptid, and cost was not an option for the travel, your cost of travel and lodging was covered, what cryptid would you see yourself and your team going to investigate?
I have 3.
Okay, let's hear.
Thylacine, 100%. Megatherum, Mapinguari sightings in.
I love the Mapinguari.
In Brazil, Peru, that sort of thing. Which we didn't have a time to even get into that. I could talk about an hour on that thing. And then Orang Pendek.
Orang Pendek, another dude. I've got to have you back on in the future because Orang Pendek and Mapinguari are 2 of my favorites. So going off of that though, I'm gonna lean towards Mapinguari. So we're gonna say we're sending you off to investigate the Mapinguari. On this trip, video camera and parabolic microphone are inherent, so they do not count. You're bringing them with you regardless, right? So you have those 2 pieces of equipment. What other item would you have in your investigative bag that you're going to bring with you?
I don't leave the house without my thermal imager.
I like it.
Nice.
Okay. So you're going to investigate the Mapiguari. You've got a parabolic mic, a video camera, and you're bringing your thermal imager with you. The Chasing Legends team is inherent. They're part of your team. They're traveling with you. So you can bring one person with you that is alive or dead, and they do not have to be involved in the cryptid field or paranormal at all. Who are you bringing with you and why?
Forrest Galante.
Oh, good answer.
Mostly because I know he kind of buys into the same theories that I have with it. And plus he's a wildlife biologist, so he would be able to like actually like verify things better than I could.
Right.
Say what you want about the guy. I think his stuff's great. I think he, is his heart's mostly in the right place. But yeah, yeah.
I think those are excellent answers. And Nash, I appreciate you coming on the show for an hour tonight, brother. It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I definitely want to have you back because I didn't even get a chance to hit on half of my like I wanted to talk about the Tokolosh down in Africa. There's so much stuff I want to talk about.
Oh, buddy.
there was so much stuff I wanted to talk about.
We need a whole show to talk about the Tukalosh.
I'm telling you.
Need a whole series, right?
No,
that weird little
if
bastard.
you've never heard of this creature, Gwen, research it. It's very strange. But dude, I appreciate you coming on the show for an hour tonight. If you wouldn't mind hanging out in the background for about 5 minutes, we're gonna run one more ad. Me and Gwen are gonna close the show out, and I got one more question that I always ask in the follow-up off screen.
Okay, I'll hang out in the back rooms.
All right, sounds good, brother.
Right.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you. It's been so interesting.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right.
No, absolutely.
All right, here we go.
I
knew it was going to be awesome. I'm tired, and I was like, I'm not missing this. I'm just not going to miss it.
Look, that was an awesome show. I mean, I know that Nash is full of knowledge when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I know his outlook, and I love the fact that he takes the believable skeptic style outlook.
Yes.
Because I do that as well as when I go into these haunted locations. I go in as a believer, but I'm also skeptical enough to know that there could be natural things going on. I felt like that was an absolutely great show, and I loved his last answer. Like Forrest, that was not what I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking maybe a Josh Gates type. So,
okay.
But Forrest was an absolutely great answer. I was not expecting that. So if you guys missed it this morning, please be sure to go back and watch the Paramystic podcast with Christina Bloom.
Yes.
Also, if you missed the show before mine, go back and watch Bridging the Seen and Unseen with Shane McClain, as he had on the Long Island Paranormal Investigators, and Christina had on
Glenn Bottis.
Thank you. And then following this show at 9:30 p.m., we have Twisted Tales with Jeremy Cotter closing out the Wicked Wednesday block of shows. And his guest is Christy.
Uh-oh.
No, I have it on my other page of notes.
Okay, I was about to say, I'll look. I can't remember.
Parrish.
There you go, Parrish. I should have known
I have
that.
it on my other page of notes. I was just trying not to flip my notes over because I was hoping you'd be on top of shit, Gwen, but you weren't.
I usually am.
I know I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. But I feel like that was an excellent show. I will definitely have Nash on in the future again if he's willing to come back on.
That'd be
we got
great.
so much more stuff that I never even got to touch on. So, guys, thank you all for tuning in to this episode of the Paranormal Unveiled podcast with my guest, Nash Hoover of Chasing Legends. Please be sure to go out to YouTube, check out their stuff. Like you were not. You won't
be disappointed. There you go.
Yes, thank you. I had a huge brain fart there. For some reason, I could not think of the word disappointed. But anyways, that was another Wicked Wednesday, and I will see you guys next week as my guest is Robbie Resnick-Colkins and from Red Road Paranormal. And on Tuesday, I will be a guest on his show. So we kind of got like a double block going there. So that's going to be fun. But I will see you all next Wicked Wednesday. Same spooky time, same spooky channel, here with Gwen Johns on the Paranormal Unveiled podcast.
Have a great night.
Have a great night, everyone.